So was Mary Magdalene Jeshua's wife? Hey guys, it's John here on the back deck on a overcast and slightly rainy day. The deck is actually wet from the rain, but right now there's a break in the rain, and I thought I'd hop on and I'd make this quick video for you. Um, Mary Magdalene. I often get asked about Mary Magdalene, and specifically, was she his wife? Well, I'll give you a quick answer. In my regression, he referred to her as Ishti, which is an ancient word that meant wife. So from that aspect, I would say absolutely, she was his wife. In Hebrew tradition, to be a rabbi, you had to have a wife. And in the Bible, they refer to him as rabbi. So Yeshua had to have a wife of some kind. The questions really come with Mary Magdalene, with the story of her being a prostitute, which has been proven many times over to not be true. Bible theologians don't believe that to be true. The story of the prostitute was not a named person. It wasn't until much later when they started to create a story to knock women down that she became the prostitute in the story. And the reason they were knocking her down in his history is because of you can blame it on St. Paul's teachings about how he had to be celibate because he was this spiritual being, and how all of the Christians of the time were supposed to be celibate as well, because all of the Christians of the time believed that the second coming was coming in their lifetime. And so celibacy would have been like the end of times was coming. So why would you bring another child into the world, kind of thing? But Jeshua himself, Jesus himself, could not have had a wife in Paul's teachings, because it would have been completely antithetical to what Paul was saying. Now, remember, in the Gnostic text, Jeshua's brother says that Paul was the liar. So Paul's teachings are put up to great scrutiny in texts that aren't canonized into a Bible. When you start looking at the concept of Mary Magdalene as the wife, all I can really do is come at it from the things that I've had, memories I've had in regression. And he did refer to her as Ishti, but he actually said it very jokingly, Ishti. He used to tease her, it's like saying, "How you doing, wife?" And like joking with her about it. What was their relationship like? They were the most loving, adoring, fawning over couple you could have ever possibly imagine. They'd laugh, they touched, she would lay against his chest and just fall into him, and they would just laugh hard together. They were the one thing about my regressions that is most interesting. The majority of my memories that show up are of laughter, of being in that laughing state, which I completely understand why, because when you are laughing, you are truly closest you'll ever be to God, because you are truly present and you are truly fearless when you are truly laughing. And so having those memories is very clear. About several months ago, someone asked me what she looked like, and I had another spontaneous regressive memory of me and her clearing a table together, and the two of us just simply laughing. She had dark curly hair. She was very short. She was a short woman. She had dark hair, had dark skin. She had sort of like greenish yellowy kind of eye. And I said this in another video, there's a photograph on Time magazine decades ago of a young Afghani girl with these really piercing eyes. Her eyes were similar to that, not as piercing as this woman and this girl in Afghanistan, but her eyes had that sort of coloring to them. She was lovely. She was spunky. She was fun. But she also knew in that time period what her place was. People often ask me about the relationship, and they try to conflate it to how modern relationships go and modern society goes. And I tell people, when you try to think about that time period, you have to really kind of think about it more along the lines of like Afghanistan under the Taliban. You have Roman rule, who is very specific about keeping the Jewish people down and not letting them rise up, become powerful, not letting them become the king of the Jews, and all of those things. So you have that element. You also have the various sects of Judaism trying to say this is what it is, and this is what you're supposed to believe. And then you had the early followers of Jeshua who were like the rebels because they were not doing anything that Judaism was teaching. If you look at the Bible, he flouts Jewish law all the way through the Bible, all the way through the New Testament. If those stories are even accurate, and then on top of that, he had sects that were trying to make him the king of the Jews because it was a way for them to get power. So it was a very politically tumultuous sort of environment and oppressive, and specifically oppressive to women because all of the cultures were knocking women down. Paul, it was all about, women shouldn't speak, in the churches. Women shouldn't be allowed to pray in the same building as the man. You go to the Wailing Wall today, and there's a barrier. Men go here, women go here, right? That's Judaic law. So that comes from the Old Testament. So you're looking at subjugation of women in a very big way. So she understood her place and she understood what she had to do when she was in public, but she also understood when she was with Joshua, she didn't have to worry about any of that. They laughed, they joked, they smiled, they had an amazingly beautiful, loving relationship, and they just loved each other. Just pure love for one another. And it was a beautiful relationship. And people then will ask me, well, did they have children? Well, in none of my regressive memories did they have children. And one of my regressive memories, well, some of my regressive memories are after the crucifixion back in Galilee, he had Mary and Mary, the mother and the wife, with him. John did, and she wasn't pregnant, and they didn't have kids. So I have to say they probably did not have kids. Now people will often argue, well, they had to have kids. They were married and had sex. Some people don't have kids. Who knows what the reasoning for that was, but it really comes down to I can only judge the story of Jeshua and Ishti Mariam from the perspective of my regressive memory, and I don't see her in any way traveling to France like that Pierre guy tried to claim she did to validate his own lineage to Jeshua. I don't see that happening. Most of those things that are happening in England and France and Ireland, most of that is actually medieval mythology to create the importance of their country to the Christian story. Um, even Mormonism, they talk about Jesus teaching the Native Americans, and so there's this whole conflation of the story of this man who found his divinity and was showing us ours, and they've created all these stories around him and her, and her, um, and her because of him, right? But when you look at the Gnostic Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which is a beautiful writing, we don't know whether it's attributed to her or not. Probably not, because it's much later written. But right in that text, she tells this whole vision that she has of seeing Jeshua, and right at the end of the text, all the apostles except for Levi are all saying, "No, you're a woman. Why would we listen to you?" So she understood that she was fighting an uphill battle, and so in that text, Jeshua refers to her as a man, giving her the power and level and equality to a man. So it's a very interesting text when you read it. But when you look at it from the perspective of who was she? She was an amazingly loving person who loved her husband, who did whatever she could to help him in whatever he needed, and truly did have great spiritual conversations with him and understood everything he was teaching in a big way. And that's my memories of her. And I whenever I think of her, I always come back to that moment of laughing, clearing the table, because it's just such a beautiful, fun moment. And so that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.